Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. This is our regular council meeting. I'll start off by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands of Acadia First Nations, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Could we all rise for the playing of O Canada, please?
In all of us command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true North, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you very much, everyone. Fourth item on the agenda, a service award. Many of you may or may not know Linda Power. She's been with the municipality of District of Yarmouth for 30 years. She's the person that comes in and always greets you at the administration office with a great smile. And we're here to celebrate and commemorate her 30 years of service to the public. So without further ado, Linda, on behalf of council, staff, and the residents of the municipality, thank you very much for everything that you've done for us and you continue to do. And on their behalf, I'd like to present you with a certificate of appreciation. And to make it official, we're going to get our pictures taken. You might not like it, but so on behalf of everyone, thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Linda.
Here's the 31.
Many more. Nick's at 30. I don't think she's getting.
It's not in the 31.
One thing that I forgot to mention, she not only serves the residents of municipality District of Yarmouth, she also tirelessly volunteers her time on different groups as well. So thank you very much, Linda. Item number 5, approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as circulated? Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to add something to the in-camera proportion, and that would be land acquisition, please.
All right. That would
Thank you.
be under contract negotiations? Purchase and sale?
Yes. Thank you.
Could I have a motion to move that? Moved by Nick. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. I also have one addition that I'd like to add, and this would go under new business, item 10.7, credit card use. Moved by Councillor Nick Hilton, seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert to add that addition. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. I have your attention on that one, don't I? Mm-hmm. Is there any more additions or deletions to the agenda as circulated? If not, entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Patty Durkee, seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 6, declarations of conflict. If there's any conflicts, please notify me either now or during the discussion of the item, and I'll certainly have that, declaring a conflict of interest to the recording secretary to make sure that it's recorded. And I'd like to apologize to everyone in advance. I have a bad bout of allergies going on right now, so if you see me sneezing or turn off my mic, it's not because I'm trying to be rude. It's the reason why I didn't live on a dairy farm after I grew up, and unfortunately, it still bothers me to this day. Item number 7, approval of the minutes. You have them in front of you from April 5th, May 18th, June 8th, and June 28th. What is council's pleasure?
I'll move the approval of the minutes to circulate.
Moved by approval of minutes is circulated by the deputy warden, seconded by Councilor Nick Hilton. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. It should also be noted, Councilor Warren Cushion and Councilor Daniel Allen are absent with regrets. I neglected to say that at the very top of the meeting. Item number 8, presentations, solid waste disposal. Ms. Faye Muse, you're with us today. If you wouldn't mind coming down, and there's a red button on that machine, just press that.
Greg's going to help out. I've asked her.
Greg's going to help out?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So we have Greg and Faye Muse with us making a
Yes.
presentation this evening. Your microphone is on, and just a reminder that the presentations are usually 10 minutes, and council questions, if any, usually takes 10 more, so
Okay.
you certainly have the floor. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Warden John Cunningham, and the councillors tonight to be able to do this presentation on the Solid Waste Resource Collection Disposal Bylaw of S08820. This bylaw was passed in last February, and so I got involved with some concerns that I had. So I'm going to just go over the page of what I have. I read over the rules, and I thought, oh my land, 30 pages of rules for garbage, and it's pretty overwhelming. It's I can see where it's hard for people to keep things straight and get everything right. And then what was the bylaw was about was illegal dumping, and if it's illegal dump, they would be charged. So I'm going to give the definition of illegal dumping. Means a pile of garbage in the backwoods, littering, bags left on the side of the road or in the ditch, putting waste in commercial dumpsters, items that blow off the back of a truck. And you're going to use reverse onus, and that means that if a person whose name or address is found within illegally dumped waste is deemed to be the owner of the material. And the fine is between $500 and $5,000, and the cost of cleanup of the site. And I think about the last 3 years, what people have been through with COVID and lockdowns and lost jobs, and what we've been going through with not being able to go to work, pay our bills. Homes, they had to make home payments on their homes or rentals. Some couldn't do it. They lost their homes. Groceries have gone up sky high. We've got gas prices. And these fines would be a greater imposition on these people who can at least afford it. So I'm thinking of the people that are going through hard times and what this would do to them. I don't want to use the word I, sorry. People that see garbage on the side of the road. As you walk down the road, the ditches are full of garbage, and they all have names on them, Tim Hortons, Wendy's, Robbins, and you just think about, would the reverse onus be put on them? And, you know, your garbage is full of other names, more than one name, lots of names. When you put out a bag of garbage, there's a lot of names in there. So how do you use the reverse onus on that? The municipality of Argyle, they pay nonprofit organizations to pick up garbage in the spring, and the roads get cleaned up, and some money goes towards an organization to help them out. That would be a good way to clean up the roads. I did get an email from the warden saying that there was 70 reports of sites that contained a truckload or more of garbage last year, and that the intention was to go after these big truckloads of garbage. And but illegal dumping means a pile of garbage in the backwoods or a bag left on the side of the road, and so it does include, you know, everything about littering. I have a story here from a concerned citizen that what she went through, her family. It involves Kathy and Larry Durgee. They have land in Brazil Lake on the Holly Road. Then a few years ago, they were living in Calgary. They had been living in Calgary for the last 25 years. But they got a call from the municipality saying that there was a dump on their land on the Holly Road, and that they were responsible for the dump and the land because it was on their land. And she said that she lived in Calgary, she wasn't home, she wasn't able to have anything to do with that dump, she didn't know about it. But she was told that if she didn't clean it up, that they would have it cleaned up and bill her. So when they came home for vacation that summer, they took 3 days to clean up that dump. And even then when they went to take it to the dump site, they wanted to charge them. So they had to get that reversed. But that took 3 days of their vacation time home to visit with her mother and her family, and a lot of work on her part. And she was told the municipality would put up a camera to find out what was going on there, but the cameras never went up. So it just seems like that was very unfair for her and her family and what they went through. So, and Greg is going to take over from here. Thank you.
Thanks for allowing me to come up with her. She had asked for the time, and there's a lot of concerned citizens behind us. These citizens are here for the people, just as you are. And I thank you for all you do. You take the time to listen to us. As you've known, we've been here regularly, and we'd love to have you guys keep us on tabs on when meetings are. If you're having an open discussion, we'd love to be there, and we'd love to have an input. And one of the things that I spent time doing, sorry, I got a little bit of a frog in my throat, but I spent time with citizens from the Lake George Road, and it's concerning a site on the watershed, that Dale Ebenson sawmill. This site was filled with contaminated things, garbage, as well as a preservant tank that contained preservant to preserve wood. The old type of preservant contained a lot of different things: pesticides, heavy metals, arsenic. There was a lot of things in these things that could be a jeopardy to the watershed. And that should be a concern to our citizens of especially the ones that drink this water. This site, I went, and I got a degree in agriculture, and I went there, and it's been growing for 8 years. They planted 200 trees, of which 3 are still living. And doing forestry, these trees are not healthy. They're dead. There's 3 left. The rest are gone. They're no longer there. This should be a concern. If trees cannot grow on this property, you should be a concern for us as a group of citizens, as a council. We should look at that and see what we can do for these people, because around this site, within half mile of the site, an environmental study was made, and there was all these heavy metals and this wood preservant. The streams, the wells, all these are contaminated. They cannot use their wells. These people are desperate for help. We should help. I don't know if you know about this site, but I have another site that is not in our municipality, but is also a concern. It's on the Depot Road. It's in Argyle municipality. This site, they had 100 truckloads of compost that was too heavy in metals to use as compost in gardening, even flowers. And they dumped it in this site. And this site is near the East Branch. This is a concern because of the fish in these streams and rivers. There's another site that I just got a picture today. I seen it, but it didn't register to me. But you have a site that is jointly to the Armit municipality and the Argyle municipality. It's at the Tusket Dam. The Tusket Dam, when they worked on it, they had plastic. This plastic is all over the shoreline. I don't know any fish that eat plastic. This is not, good for that particular stream. They're trying to get salmon to come back in that stream for fishing. There's an industry in the kayak industry, Gaspereau. We don't want to put those industries in jeopardy. These are concerns. As I look forward, I see justice and prudence on your side. Justice. We've got the definition here. If I can find it. Justice and prudence. Justice is hearing both sides of any story and make a decision. Prudence, that is the ability to govern, which is our people that we've elected, and discipline oneself using reason. Using reason. And we have ethical and moral and responsibilities for the people of our community. We as citizens have the same. This is where I'm just reading your sign on that particular matter. Now, in the matter of the 3 sites that I've spoke, there's no way that reverse onus can be used. Cannot. But the Municipal Government Act says in section 344, dangerous and unsightly premises should be taken care of. The unsightly part of the Lake George premises and the East Camp Depot has been taken care of, but they didn't take care of the rest. Something should be done with the rest. The chemicals, those heavy metals are still there. It's a concern for those people. As far as the Tusket site, it's still an active site. Can we look into it as a council or as a group of citizens to see what we can do? Okay, I'd like to thank you for this time. And I send my regards with Councillor Cushing. He's hurting. When a fellow citizen hurts, we hurt. And I thank you again for your time. And if there's any question or comments, you're welcome.
Any comments or questions? Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. You've been following us for quite some time, and you know that the garbage struggle is real. You know that, we know that. And we, I feel, are trying to do what we think is right. And I just want to point out that I know Argyle has the funding for nonprofit organizations, and we have the similar thing through Waste Check, and I guess we just might not promote it enough. If people, I know a couple of people had reached out to me in the spring, but we do have budget money allotted to Waste Check to have nonprofit organizations clean up in our community. But we know garbage, the struggle is real. It's kind of, I know that I feel that we're trying to do the best that we can. You know, I get Tim Hortons, McDonald's, Wendy's, Robbins, all of those. I shouldn't even say their names to give them credit. You know, all of those things are happening, and we have people, the same people over and over and over again, who are out there cleaning up the ditches, cleaning up in the spring, you know, walking the beaches, and, you know, pointing out some of these areas. You know, maybe there's something, you know, that we can, you know, do as a council. You know, maybe we normally don't make motions at committee of the whole during presentations, but, you know, those are things that we can, you know, look into. I'm not sure, Lake George watershed, is that us or is that the town? I think that's the town, Madam. Yes, I knew it was complicated, and there's some outstanding legal issues there. So I think we know it's on the radar, but it's complicated. I knew it was. Tusket, that's something that, you know, maybe we can, you know, ask some questions about. And I did see the Facebook post of the lady who had showed all of the plastic that was all over the shoreline, and I thought, same as you, how does that, you know, how does that happen? So I do appreciate your comments and, you know, bringing this to our attention and, you know, the public. I think that, you know, and I said that we have people who continue to pick up that garbage. Like, it shouldn't be on, we should be doing our part to keep the community clean, but it shouldn't be the same people, because those same people who are picking up the litter are, you know, equally the same other group of people who continue to throw it out their vehicle window or, you know, don't care. So I appreciate the presentation, and it's something that I know that we continue to deal with and will continue to deal with. So thank you.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I have a lot to do with community litter programs. Seems like bugs in our throat, or everyone's got one today. So yeah, a lot to do with community organizations and picking up litter. Just this morning, we were down on Chabot Point with Coastal Restoration, getting them access to the beach. They're in our community right now, picking up massive amounts of ocean debris off the beaches, off the shorelines. Yarmouth in the last 3 years has just surpassed 100,000 pounds of garbage off the roadside and off the beaches from community organizations that are picking up garbage. So when the bylaw was enacted, it's not that reverse onus isn't new. It was there in our bylaw forever. It just wasn't being enforced. And it's more of a tool than a threat. It is a threat in some ways. We don't want you to illegally dump, but I also don't want a resident stuck with a bill for, or stuck with a fine for cleaning up an illegal dump site. We know that we want things to be picked up over time. So I don't know where the balance is to that, and as a councillor, I would be available to help navigate that, if not help pick it up. There's a lot of things. I do believe the reverse onus bylaw has merit, and I think it, in the right circumstance, could be used appropriately. You shouldn't be allowed to illegal dump, and especially on someone else's property, and if you do it, there should be consequences to that. So I helped create the Earth Day activities at Mariner Center each Earth Day in April, and this year we had 150 families bring us a bag of garbage, and in exchange for that bag of garbage, roadside garbage, they got, a hot dog, a pop, and to play on a bouncy castle. So we're teaching young people to pick up garbage, but we're also teaching them to pick up someone else's garbage. And we're putting them at risk by putting them in a ditch on the roadside. So I don't know how to punish the people that are illegally dumping and throwing their coffee cup out the window. And really, that's what I want to do, is I want to punish the people that are doing it. And I feel strongly about that. Building on that, we are waiting, and have been waiting for a long time for EPR, which is Extended Producer Responsibility, which is a part of, and Trevor wants to mention that as well, which is a part of it's a cost absorbed in when you buy the coffee that they pay money to either sponsor, it's to help them recycle their own products, because they created the waste. They should be responsible to get rid of it. Unfortunately, it's probably passed down to us, but it may be available for community organizations to apply their money to help clean up the community. We don't know what it's going to look like yet. We just know that it's coming, but the province doesn't seem to want to pull the trigger on that. So I hear your concerns. I want to work with you to address some of those concerns, and we can always look at what the bylaw is and could be. There's just so much, but the problem is there's just so much garbage. It's unreal. I do a half a kilometer each spring in front of my house, and it's 6 to 12 large garbage bags every year. The same spot. It shouldn't be that bad every year, and it is. And I know that every councillor here participated this year in picking up trash for Earth Day weekend. So I think I could go on forever, but that's probably about it. But I hear what you're saying, and I look forward to working with you to solve some of those things and address some of those issues. And I probably need more information on some of the information that you provided on the other heavy metal use and things like that, but I'd love to hear more about that as well.
Deputy Ward?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. It was well thought out. And yeah, I mean, definitely we can look at the bylaw. I think that's important on an ongoing basis. One thing that did intrigue me, and Councillor Hilton sort of alluded to it, was the issue of all the fast food spots, mostly in town, and as Councillor Hilton had indicated, I do pick garbage up around the community a little bit every year, and it doesn't take long to get 15 or 20 bags of it, and a lot of that is the fast food cups, and there's a variety of them. So it may even be something that we could look at before the EPR potentially comes in, the extended producer responsibility piece comes in, legislation comes in provincially, that we could simply ask them for donations. That may be something that we may do, because it is we obviously don't have any tax benefit. They're in town mostly, and the cups, you all know, they're all over the place. You see them whenever you walk, and so they may do that as a good corporate citizen. So hopefully, yeah, lots of other pieces. Thank you, and definitely going to take a little bit of time to digest everything you've said and think about it in terms of the bylaw and et cetera. So thank you again.
Oh, okay. Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for the discussion that we know we know there are issues. And interestingly enough, I want to point out a couple of things. And you mentioned about Kathy and Larry Durkee and what they had to go through. I can also tell you that's my husband's first cousin. But anyway, the idea of as reverse onus is that they shouldn't be responsible for all the garbage that's been dumped on their property. And that's why we put this in, because if we find documentation in garbage that's found on someone else's property, then it's the person's name that we find in the garbage that's responsible to pick it up and clean it up. Because we don't want people like Larry and Kathy having to think about, I have this piece of property and and I didn't dump it, so why should I have to clean it up? I know someone else in that area is having the same issue where someone is constantly dumping their garbage in this person's private garbage bin. And she had to go clean out like rotten lobster shells, et cetera, and it's not hers. And so if we can find proof that of who did it, then those are the people that are responsible. And to me, it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much money you make or whatever. Why litter? Like, I don't understand why people feel that they can just toss garbage here, there, and everywhere. It's everybody's responsibility, and it's so easy to find a garbage can or a bag or something somewhere at home, or and then get rid of it, because we all pay taxes to have our garbage removed. So that's the point that we make, is that we are, taxes are paying for garbage to be removed, so just take it home and put it in your garbage and use the days that you're supposed to put it out, it's done. And then it keeps our community cleaner. Thanks.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you. And just one more comment. And last week, as I was cleaning dirty Superman diapers out of a green bin, out of a community green bin, I was frustrated, and I wanted to find the people that did it and make them clean it themselves. Instead, of course, me and my neighbor ended up doing it. So I want to build on what Patty's saying. The intent isn't to find a name and stick any person with that fine. It's to have our bylaw officer work with them, and if they have a reasonable explanation of why that garbage was there, say they live in an apartment and it was the maintenance man that lost the bag on the way there, it's not for us to fine just anybody. It's if they can't prove that they didn't do it, if they don't have a reasonable excuse to why they didn't do it, then they get the fine. And it may not be the whole fine. If they agree to clean it up, maybe they get half the fine. But there should be a penalty to doing it, not just thanks for cleaning up your garbage after you illegally dumped it. Does that make some sense? Like, we're not here to stick it to anybody. Just here to stick it to the people that did it.
Yeah, and I'll finish this off. Just actually, Greg, you go ahead.
I just want to make a couple, basically, questions. One is, one of the things that we possibly could do is to promote personal responsibility in education, which Councillor Nick Hilton has addressed a little bit on. But we could work a little bit more on that. Yeah, and I also have, we have a bin that we get refundables at the Brazil Lake Hall. You wouldn't believe the items I get in there. And
I would.
This is refundable items. But they'll put needles, they'll put everything. I've had gun shells, okay? So that's not taking personally responsible for what they're doing. But can I use you as an example? If I took your number and put it on a paper and put it in my garbage, and my garbage went somewhere and was found in the landfill, it's technically reverse onus, correct? And that's what we want to avoid, an innocent person getting shot. Thank you.
One thing I'd like to say is in regards to promoting personal responsibility. I agree 100%. There's too much of this stuff going on. And if you follow me on Facebook, not on my warden's page, but on my personal page, just 5 days ago, I posted a video of me picking up cans along the side of a lake, somewhere where I go every day. And this has been a bone of contention with me for the past many years. It used to be at the mouth of the Carlton River where it goes in behind the store and down in Reynolds Lake. It used to be there because there's a lot of people that go there and camp overnight. Well, now it's not only going on there, it's going in where I put my boat in. It's very upsetting to me that this happens, and I'm not going to beat the same points that others had made. But absolutely, we hear you. The Lake George thing, I'm aware of that, and I've been aware of that for quite some time. Unfortunately, it's in legal litigation right now, and I cannot make no comments on that. And I've talked to many of the residents out there. The plastic from the Nova Scotia Power Dam in Reynolds Lake, or
It's below Reynolds Lake.
yeah, the spillway of Reynolds Lake, I was one of the first ones to report that. I travel by there every day.
Thank you.
That was reported to Department of Environment, and Nova Scotia Power, as soon as they were alerted, it was cleaned up quite quickly, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's,
Still there,
they're still there.
still some there.
It's a new batch.
Pardon me?
It's a new batch. They
A new batch.
last fall, and
Yeah.
they put water up, and there's been more washed through. It's there now.
Okay.
Thank-
I'll personally take care of that myself.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much. You brought up a lot of good points in your presentation in regards to our solid waste bylaw. And absolutely, that the intent of that bylaw is not to punish the people that own the land, is try to find some of the culprits that's dumping this stuff, truckloads, and kitty litter, and you name it. It's disgusting. I wish people would wake up, but you made a very good point regarding promoting personal responsibility, and EPR was also brought up. So thank you very much. We have to move on.
Can I honor Bobby Gray's daughter? She's put our area on the map in equestrian, worldwide. Worldwide. Tanya's riding worldwide and blowing everything out of the map. She's blown people out of the water equestrianly, so she's giving Yarmouth a name for equestrian.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in Yarmouth over the past little bit, wrestlers,
Yeah.
local wrestlers, local equestrian, and people in hockey, you name it. There's a lot of good people and
Yeah.
doing a lot of good things.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Greg and Fay. Moving on, item 22, Acts of Kindness Society. Mike? All right, the floor is yours. Could you please introduce each of yourselves? You don't have to talk directly in the mic, but as long as you're somewhat close to it, that would be good. And you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm Mike Wedge. I'm the president of Acts of Kindness.
And I'm Ken Cleveland. I'm his voice of reason.
My yang.
Go ahead.
And my conscience.
Mike started Humankind a few years ago, and we refurbished a house over in Chicago. Some of you might know about that. That's how I met him. And that was completely grassroots. We weren't a nonprofit or anything. That was all done with complete volunteer and no assistance or organization or official organization. He contacted me last fall. A group of people had talked about creating a soup kitchen. Their original vision or hope, dream was to take the old Rosa Sharon Assembly Church on East Street in Yarmouth. It's a very historic black church, and renovate it and use it for a soup kitchen. So we got together, a bunch of us, and it was a very probably overly ambitious project. But anyway, we formed a new nonprofit. We registered with Joint Stocks and started working on the organization. At Christmas time, we said this is going to take a while. There's people that are hungry now, and we wanted to do something. So we went down on a Saturday afternoon. Different people brought pots of chili, soup, whatever. We packaged it in containers and went out into the community, door to door, and started passing out meals. And that first day, those of us that went out, knocked on doors, our hearts broke, and we said, we have to do this. We have to keep doing this. And we did, and we've been doing it every single Saturday. We've done 8,770-something meals to date. When we first started it, I approached Department of Health or food inspector and asked about the rules, and at that time, my division was a soup kitchen, and I asked about that. He told us, I know there's been concerns about food safe. Anyway, I asked, and they said if you're giving food away, you don't have to get a permit, you don't have, you know, there's best practices. He gave me information, and we proceeded under that assumption. Apparently, if you're accepting donated food and delivering it, it does change the rules, which we found out afterwards. But anyway, it grew, and we've done, like I said, 8,700 meals. We've got government grants. The ownership of the Rose of Sharon Church, they couldn't give us a lease because their board of directors, the people on the deed had passed away, and they've got to get affidavits and executors. So the building didn't progress as we hoped because we couldn't get grants because we didn't have a lease. So we realized we needed to look for a plan B. We spoke to Yakro. We went to Boys and Girls Club Kitchen for a couple weeks. They found out this last week that their child care facility, they're not allowed to rent their kitchen. We'd already been speaking to Yakro. We had Ministry of Health contact us yesterday. We met with the inspector today. She inspected the Yakro kitchen. We've got a permit application, we've got insurance, we've got a lease or an agreement with the Yakro hub at the old Gateway Lanes building. And this Saturday, we're going to be there, and we have to cook our own food in that commercial kitchen. And we're going to continue to deliver food and put meals in the community. We've also partnered with the Farmers Market Bucks program. We've distributed over $3,000 in Farmers Market Bucks to people in the community. And we've, with some of the grant money, we've delivered bags of food to numerous individuals in the community. And those numbers of meals and the amount of food that we put out don't tell the real story of the human connections that our volunteers have made. We've had our volunteers come back in tears, me included. Some of the houses we go to, the people say the meals are great, but knowing somebody cares means a lot more. And we've had hugs. I've been in the kitchen of a boarding house holding the guy who's crying me, telling him about how he lost his daughter. We've made a lot of connections in the community. We deliver to a lot of addresses in South End, but we also do all over town. We've been out in Dayton, Hebron, Chicago. Yeah, anywhere. But yeah, we service municipality, and the response from everybody has been incredible. The province contacted us and offered us a grant. She came down and met us, saw what we were doing, and said, I can help you with this, and they gave us a $50,000 grant. So when we found out that we were doing things wrong inadvertently, luckily we're in a position we're doing things right now. We were doing the right things for the right reason, and now we're going to do them the right way. So if the council can support us in promoting us financially, morally, that's great. If not, that's fine too. And if anyone knows somebody in need, if you got a friend or relative or whatever, send us a message on Facebook or email. We'll deliver a meal to them. The need in the community is very real. Some of the people, when you open the door, that they're financially destitute, and other people, they're doing okay, but emotionally, mental health is filling that need just as much for the people we visit. And we've got 20 to 50 intermittent volunteers, and it's fulfilling us even more. It's helping us. I've never worked so hard, but I've never felt so good. So that's our presentation, I guess. Mike, you want to add anything, or?
As Ken said, this really came out of, for me, seeing the food bank, in the wrong part of town, as we all have seen that. I know this is municipality and all that, but I would deliver food bank, and then the food that they're getting is just not enough. People are really hungry out there. And one of the things that we hear a lot of is there really a need? You know, and do they really need it? And I see people at the food bank, and they've got a nice car and that, but you know, that's often a neighbor that's picking them up or giving them a ride. And so because the food bank wasn't hitting it, that's when we came up with the idea of, well, let's do the soup kitchen. There was nothing for them. We picked the worst day of the week. Nobody wants to do a Saturday. So our desire is to fill the holes. We're not trying to do our own thing and be bravado about it. Our job is, where's the gap? Let's fill the hole. And people weren't getting food on weekends. You know, nobody wants to do Saturday. So we chose Saturday between 3 and 5. And yes, we wanted to renovate a building, but we couldn't do that, and so we weren't going to wait. People can't wait, so we've got to get the food out there. And yeah, we bent some rules and we broke some rules maybe, but in taking the food out to them, we really got to build trust with people. When you deliver a hot meal to someone and it's -30, and we literally have never missed a Saturday. We gave a vow that we would do every Saturday, and that means if Christmas Day is on a Saturday, we'll do it. Because if you commit to something like this, you can't back out. You can't do it some weeks and not the others, or we haven't got many volunteers. So our commitment is solid. And we just, you guys carry weight, and you carry weight for the people, and so you need to know that I'm sure you do, and you're not stupid, but the need out there, we didn't really know, and yet we're in tune with it. But when you see at that doorstep, when you see kids eating in the doorstep, kids eating a bowl of chili in the doorstep at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there's a much bigger problem. It's wonderful to see now that we've gained that credibility in the community. We're loved, we're adored, I'm told. And so, no, I don't say that to brag. I say that because what we're doing is hitting a home run, like straight down the middle. And we will deliver to anywhere. Like we've been out to Pubnico, we've been to Sanford, or like all the municipality. We don't reject anybody. If you put a request in for a meal, unless we run out of meals, which we do every single Saturday, we've never had meals left over. So, and 8,700 meals later, it shows that there's a genuine need, and we would like your support to promote it.
Well, Mike and Ken, thank you very much for your presentation. And before I turn the mic over to the Deputy Warden, who's the first one, one thing that Council noticed, especially this year during our grants process, was food security. Yep. And I will say that and I'm very glad that you guys are filling in the gaps. So the first one on the docket is Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. You have the floor.
Right, thank you. Presentation, and thank you for all the hard work. Warden Cunningham did mention that we saw lots more evidence that there is a bigger need than ever in the community through the number of submissions we had through our grants process. So you're right, it's a very, very big issue, and everybody knows inflation, especially food inflation, has just gone wild. I mean, I was in the grocery store a few times over the last, bit, and I couldn't believe the prices. I mean, so it is a tremendous problem. It's a huge issue, and we'll work with you as a council, certainly to help and promote and to support, because it's a critical issue, obviously. And your point about the cars at the food bank and so forth is a good one. Yeah, those folks. I've noticed. I work near there, and I've noticed more and more people, like by the week. I mean, I haven't counted, but there's lots.
Record numbers yesterday.
Record numbers yesterday. Yeah. I noticed that. Yeah, and so it's a huge issue. But I think also another part of our responsibility is we're also responsible for promoting economic growth in the community, and folks need support, and they need the ability to work. They need industry. We need all those things, including your service. So thank you very much. It was a fantastic presentation, and something we need to work harder at moving forward.
Councillor Nick Hilton. Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Just you know, hearing the previous presentation and your presentation, what really rings out is that we're here for the people and the residents that may not have the help or circumstances to help themselves. So I can't thank you all enough for the work that you're doing in the community. And we've followed on Facebook a little bit of the ups and downs of the last week, and we're happy to hear that things are working out. And just a couple questions for you. Where do we stand on the fixing of the church, or is that still the plan?
The board of directors for the church haven't been able to give us a lease yet because they had to file affidavits with the joint stocks to dissolve the previous board, and we've sort of reignited their family interest in the building, and now they sort of have a vision of the building. They started talking about making a tribute, a historical, for the Black community. So they may apply for grants themselves and get the building fixed up, and then enter into a partnership with us where we rent it 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, depending on how it evolves. But they now, we stopped the building, we put a fair amount of work into it, fixed the foundation and some structural elements, so that now the building is at less risk of being demolished. And so they've got a extension of life, and hopefully they'll organize and save the building and utilize it. But we've got our plates full for the next 7 or 8 months, and we plan to use the Acro Hub going forward, and it'll depend on how many more people step forward and how much money flows in and all those things. We're just going to evolve as we go.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things became quite apparent is that we're not governed by a building. You know, what this quickly became is about the people, right? I mean, we need to get food out to the people, so that's why we kind of did it unconventionally and not right, whatever. But it mobilized. What was fantastic is you saw a community rally for a community, which is like so important. We've lost that, obviously. You know, we've really lost that, you know, what it means to be a community. And one of the main reasons of us coming here today is to say, you know, by hook or by crook, we've got where we've got. And we've got this money come in from the government, which is fantastic. So now money is not a problem for us. In fact, one of the main reasons for us being here today is to say, you know your community better than we know, right? You have organizations out here, whether it's churches or clubs or whatever. We want to help them or offer them some of our money, some of the money that we've got from the government. So we want to duplicate our money. So basically say, if you put on a fundraiser to raise money to help people with food insecurity, we'll match that. Like, we'll put money in that we were given. It's not our money, we're putting it in because we want to help your community grow. So it's not just like, hey, why don't you give us money? Right? We don't need money. That's not our worry at the moment. What we actually need is volunteers. We need people, and certainly with the issue with you guys would be you people in your community delivering to people in your community. And we'll cover that cost for the food if necessary. But we don't, you know, as you always know, it's the people that don't ask, right? And we all know those people, right? We know there's someone down the road. The Nickerson's house that we did in Chicago never asked for a penny, you know, and we completely built their house. So it's the community that knows their community. So what we're saying is feed us that information, and we'll either get meals out to them, or we can help partner with them and giving them money to, you know, we're happy to give a church $1,000 to say, give it to people in your community that you know need it. If they haven't got that money, we're happy to do that.
So just to follow up to that, like, I think now even bringing those members of the church back in, that's great, because that's more volunteers doing another part of the job for you, right? So every AGM I ever go to, volunteerism is the number one topic and lack thereof. So I hear that. So what is the best way to contact you as a community member, as a counselor? What's the best way to get in contact with your organization?
Well, the social services give out my personal number, but
I already got that.
Facebook page or the email address is on there.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can call. I mean, yeah, we have our personal numbers on there. We don't care. Right? We won't reject anybody.
Thanks again.
Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation, and, you know better than probably most of us the food insecurity that is in the area, because you have volunteers who are doing this for weeks on end, every day, and it's commendable that you've made that commitment that you're never going to miss a Saturday. And I think it's hard for organizations who are run by volunteers, to have those, weekly commitments or even daily commitments at times, because it's not just you show up on Saturday. There are people who are doing stuff, Saturday to Saturday. It's not just like everyone, I get that. I'm a volunteer in many organizations. What are they saying? When I started volunteering for Girl Guides, they said, an hour of your week, they say, and it turns into, hours and hours a week, but we do it because we love it, right? We do it because we know we need to. So thank you, and it was great to see today that you found a solution to this, the food, food issue and, the food handling and all of that, so, good on you, congratulations. So when you talk about the, congratulations to whoever made that work, so yeah, thanks. So when you talk about the grant from the province, and, thanks for providing some insight on that, and so you have a group of people who currently, or a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, were making meals and bringing it, I get that. So could those same people be donating their money that they would have spent at home to you for you to then buy the food to do that? Is there any
Yes, they can.
that could happen?
Yeah.
So if someone, okay.
It was just the connection of someone in their home making a loving
Right.
meal
Yeah,
with
for
love,
sure.
delivering to, it was just so personal. It worked beautifully. And the meals that people cook are delicious. Like,
Yeah.
we've got people in the South End that said, we're putting on weight. Like, they're giving us crap because they're putting on weight.
Yeah.
And I think that's the sad part is,
Yeah.
that's going to be somewhat missed.
For sure.
But that's all right. We just got to roll.
But people could still donate money to the organization.
Money's
instead
not
of-
the issue, though. But
Right,
yeah.
no.
Well, no,
Well, money eventually could be the issue
Eventually,
if
eventually
you
could.
run
Well,
out
shut
of.
up, then you can.
There's your voice of reason over your shoulder.
And the other thing that could happen, right, once we get our system sort of figured out, a group could contact us and say, we want to come in on September 15th, Saturday, and your group could come in, bring the food, cook in our kitchen, and, and we could put a sign out front, today's meal provided by, the running club or this church
Okay.
group or whatever. So, we could allow groups to volunteer to sponsor and run, cook the meals for a certain day or a certain month or whatever.
Okay. And just as a follow-up, we did receive your grant request, and it's not uncommon to ask,
Rejected it,
no, I'm not saying rejected, you notice I stopped myself there. It's not uncommon for us to ask people, or ask organizations who we've never heard from before, who've never presented in front of council before, we kind of say, here's the check,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that do I have to make a motion to reconsider that, or can we just add it to a future discussion
All in
to
favor, say
reconsider
aye.
the grant application? So I could make a motion, so I'll make a motion that we reconsider the grant application from Acts of Kindness.
Motion on the floor, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Nick Hiltz. Discussion on that motion on the floor. I do have one question before I ask for others. The motion on the floor is to reconsider
The grant
the
application.
grant application. Are you talking about that now or at a future meeting?
Future meeting, sorry, we can do it. Yeah.
I just wanted to be clear because.
Yes, future meeting, not today.
Yeah, we
I'm
don't
not
wanna-
making a motion to.
We don't wanna put you on the
allot-
spot.
I'm not making the motion to add a dollar amount today at the next meeting.
Okay,
So I guess the motion could be, make the motion that we reconsider at the next regular council meeting.
Yeah, that's what I understood it,
Yes.
but I was just wondered
That's
wondered
clear.
if you were under the impression that we discussed that tonight.
No.
And that would
Because we would need to
define
have the
whether
grant.
I'd vote in
Right,
favor
because we have
or
to
against.
We have to look at the grant application again and do all of that, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. Councillor Durkee?
Thank you. And this refers to the discussion on the motion. not that I don't want to support, because thank you, I will quickly say that I'm thrilled that you guys were able to work out some of the concerns. In fact, you know that food insecurity was one of my concerns. So both Mike and Ken, thank you so much for working so hard on this and doing all these things for the community. My question is, Mike says money isn't a problem, so do they still need the money?
That's why he's not allowed to talk.
I had to throw that out there as part of the discussion.
I mean,
I understand.
And we completely understood the hesitancy for people to support us when we started. We approached different groups and you know, Mike said, this group's not supporting. I said, I don't blame them. Like, we haven't proven ourselves. You know, we're new. Anybody can start something. It's to take it to the next level. And you know, if public health had contacted us 3 months ago, like they did yesterday, we would be done. We would have been dead in the water. We had $2,000 in the bank. We didn't have an agreement with Yakro. We would have been dead in the water. So we broke the rules just long enough to get, you know, to get to a point where and we were already there. We had already had to deal with Yakro last week to rent their building. We'd been looking at commercial kitchen. We tried to do more food safe stuff. We didn't know we needed a permit was the only thing that was different, and we didn't know we weren't allowed to accept donated meals. So, like, it was a minor bump. It was solved in 3 or 4 hours today because we were already on that path and we just had to veer a little bit. But like I said, for groups in the future, if you let them break the rules for a little while, they might do great things. But if somebody had told us to if they enforced the rules on us back in January or even 2 months ago, nobody would be getting meals this weekend. So, just something to consider. You know, sometimes it's good to let a kid break the rules to find a new way to solve a problem. But
If I may continue, everything happens for a reason, right? So this is great. Just one question quickly, and you said the province gave 50,000. Which department did that come from? CCH?
I was going to look at that before I left, and I was so busy today. Community Heritage, something, whatever, yeah. And the lady that came down to meet us, she said that Nova Scotia is not the worst province for food insecurity, but it's near the bottom of the list, and Yarmouth is the worst community of any size. There's a few First Nations reserves that are below Yarmouth, or above Yarmouth, how you want to look at it, but Yarmouth has a huge hole in it, and that's why she could give us the money. She said the province knows that Yarmouth has a problem. There's lots of groups doing great things in Yarmouth, but the need is greater. And she said, you guys are doing the exact right thing at the exact right time. What do you want? And I was like, what are you talking, like $100 a week? And she said, ask for 50,000, ask for more when it's gone. And so,
wow.
Yeah, exactly, wow.
Wow, that's great, thank you.
so I would say that, you know, just to clarify, when I say money's not the issue, of course, whatever money we get, we're going to use, and we're going to be diligent. We're very diligent about how we handle the money. It's just so refreshing for it not to be the issue.
Yeah.
That's what's great. We've done something with no money, and we've turned out 8,500 meals with no money. Now, because of that, we're credible. We've got the money, so we want. Let's make this snowball so that everybody's winning, because literally everybody can win from this.
And that's what he said about anybody can take the 50,000, spend it at Superstore and drop it off at people's houses. We want to double it, triple it, quadruple it, and that's where if like the group here wanted to do a fundraiser for the food bank, a bake sale, and said, you know, we'll say, okay, well, we'll double your money. Whatever you raise, we'll double it for up to a certain amount. And that, you know, we can double the impact. If a group wants to do a big meal, and, you know, we could match the groceries they buy, or we could subsidize it. So anyway, we want to multiply the money. We want to use it wisely so we can go back to them when it's gone and ask for more. And
All right, I'm looking for the question on the motion on the floor. Oh, I didn't know. So go ahead, Madam CA.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a question for clarification before council calls for the question on the motion. The grant from the province of Nova Scotia, Are there specific rules around how that money can be spent?
We had to put in a budget, and I was very clear with her that we were guessing, because we were flying blind, we were still operating under the trailer. And so it's 90% for food, the budget I put in, and she said to put in some money for gas for volunteers and some money for utilities or whatever. And she said, but just update me with what's your progress, and she said it's flexible. So I just have to send her emails and let her know we've decided to rent the building, so we're going to spend this much on, and so on.
So that's where I was going with the question. So I think what I heard you say was volunteers are really kind of your top need right now that there's appears to be some significant financial support. And so for volunteers to come to the kitchen cook or to deliver the meals, transportation and/or the cost of fuel could be a barrier to somebody wanting to volunteer. So that's why I asked the question, clarifying that if a contribution was to be made to provide a fuel allowance for volunteers, if that would be part of the overall solution. That's why I was asking that question.
Yeah, so far, we did allow for some gas cards volunteers. I tried to give a couple away last week, and they didn't want to take them. And the kitchen, we've got a lot of people that want to volunteer in the kitchen, but we can't, as we saw last week, too many cooks in the kitchen cause a problem. And the lady that runs it right now sent me a text today when I told her we were going to have to cook. She said, one request, nobody in the kitchen, and she listed the 4 ladies that are in there. So, okay, for now, they want to run it because it is a small kitchen, but.
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Mike and Ken.
Thank you very much for your
Appreciate it.
time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Item 8.3, Director of Recreation, Mr. Frank Grant. There he was, gone.
Left the building.
If he shows up in a second, rather, because we're running, oh, there he is. I know he was, and I looked up and there he was, gone. Well, Frank, you know the rodeo. You have the floor.
Alrighty. Thanks so much for giving me a few minutes to talk about recreation, something that I've been passionate about my entire life. And speaking about being passionate and my entire life, there's a person in the gallery that made a big impact in my life. My grade 3 teacher, Linda Hatfield, is here. And I always take the opportunity to thank my past teachers, because I remember math class in her class, and we did little competitions, and I remember at the end of each day we argued about who was better, Ron Say or Craig Nettles. And thank you, Linda, my favorite teacher.
You're just saying that, Frank.
No, she knows. Every time I see her, I always tell her. So, recreation. So yeah, so I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our recreation team. You know, I am the director of Yarmouth Recreation, but I'd be nothing without the support of our great staff. Jillian Camo is our community engagement officer. Tanya Bain, our active living coordinator. Matthew Smith, our community recreation coordinator, and John Darcy, our facilities coordinator. All work very hard every day. Even though we have lost Tanya Bain, Tanya has left our department for another job opportunity, but a lot of great work being done, maybe behind the scenes, out there for great recreation, sport, and leisure activities. So I'll talk a little bit, and then if there's any questions at all, I'll do my best to answer them. So,
Your clicker is right
clicker.
to advance your slide.
It's buzzing. There.
Okay, great. So just a little note on budget, because dollars and cents do mean a lot. We are a joint recreation department with the town of Yarmouth, and we are tracking very well after 3 months of operation.
By doing that, you want to plug this off so we can't hear it? Now we can hear it.
All good? All right. So we have at present exceeded our expected summer program revenues. Our summer budget was $65,400, and right now we are tracking at $67,854. With department expenses, after 3 months of operation, expenses are at $301,520, and according to our budget figures, we should be tracking around 298. So we're tracking very well with our budget. Whoop, I must have hit the wrong button here. There we go. As far as some notes on our summer day camps, we do more than summer day camps, but a lot of our summer staff are hired to lead daily camps. And in any given day, we could have over 100 children and youth in activities. And we did review our program offerings, and we came up with a great lineup, I think. We have bike and boat camp for ages 12 to 15. We have an average number of participants per day of 7. Explore Sports Camp for ages 8 to 11. We have an average number of 18 people. Leader in Training, this is, there's an error on that report. Leader in Training is for ages 12 and up, and the idea around Leader in Training is that we want those children that are right at that 12, 13, 14 age to volunteer, to get involved with our recreation programs, to learn, to do first aid, to help lead activities, and hopefully become future recreation staff. So I did put an average number of 4 participants, but that was an error. We are averaging around 11 participants in training sessions for Leader in Training. Outdoor Adventure is for ages 12 to 15, and they do a number of different adventures based on the outdoors, trails, hiking, biking. We're averaging 8 participants. Recreation Adventure Camp, those are adventures on Fridays for ages 5 to 11. We're averaging 41 participants. And our Summer Fun Day Camp, which has been a staple, I think, since my days as a summer recreation staff, we're averaging 23 participants in Summer Fun Day Camp. So I mentioned camps are a big part of what we're doing each day, but we do have a number of special events, activities, leisure activities that are happening. Just to highlight a few upcoming, just so folks will plan to put it on their calendars and attend. We have Switch Open Street events on the last Sunday of July and August, July 30th and August 27th. 12 to 4 p.m. we close down a section of Main Street and we open it up for a wide range of vendors, organizations, games, you name it. The street is closed and people are walking up and down and taking part in all kinds of different organization activities. Family Beach Party is coming up on Port Maitland Beach on July the 22nd. That's this coming Saturday. Hopefully the weather is looking kind of iffy, but hopefully that will go forward. Active living programs. So we have a new active living campaign called Make Your Move Yarmouth, and we're doing all kinds of pop-ups, drop-in activities, and evening and daily walks. Active Souls is a very popular Tuesday evening walking group that walks in different locations every week. We started a senior strut daily walk, and we've done some photo hunt challenges as well. We've also been involved with Participaction, and I'm happy to say that we were selected as one of 50 most active communities across Canada. And we have applied for some funding that if we are chosen, we could win anywhere from $2,500 to support active living and physical activity, or a maximum of $100,000. So that was pretty exciting that lots of people are still doing the participation, moving every day and counting their steps and trying to be more active with their daily lives. And of course, our facilities is a big part of our department. We work closely with numerous leagues. We have numerous softball diamonds, baseball diamonds, soccer pitches, and we work closely with the Yarmouth Clippers Soccer Club, Yarmouth Area Minor Baseball, the Recreational Baseball League, and to offer all the different league plays that's happening every day of the week here in Yarmouth. And of course, we have the Lake Milo Boat Club, which is busy with boating, swimming, lifeguarded swimming, and canoe and kayak rentals, and stand-up paddleboard rentals. So just a few other points that I did want to make is that very exciting news that the town of Yarmouth is revisiting the active transportation plan, which is now 13 years old, and new priorities are being set and ideas for future development around active transportation. Both councils are beginning to revise the Yarmouth Recreation Agreement between the town and the municipality of Yarmouth. I already mentioned the participation. One of the neat projects coming up is that we're looking into connecting our work with active living and physical activity with the Nova Scotia Health Authority and trying to get local pharmacies on board with prescribing physical activity. And this is a project led by NSHA that we hope that we can get some participating pharmacists on board. We all know that if someone is on medication, one of the next things the doctor may say is you need to walk more, you need to exercise more, so we can have some ready-made information ready to give to the patient and hopefully get them right back on the right track. And as I mentioned, our active living coordinator, Tanya Bain, she finished with us on July the 14th, and she is moving on to a new position with Tri-County Restorative Justice, which is another partner that we have with, that's involved with all of our active living pursuits and activities. So that's recreation in 3 minutes. If there's any questions at all, I'd be happy to entertain them or try to answer.
Well, your 3 minutes are awfully long.
Maybe it wasn't 3 minutes.
No, that's quite all right. Just trying to make, if you can't have fun, whatever you're doing, then don't even bother doing it. Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Frank, for everything. You know how much I appreciate recreation in the town and municipality of Yarmouth. There was no mention of the strategic plan and what happened and where that was going. Just wondering if you could provide an update to some of the outcomes, because I personally filled out the questionnaire, and I know a number of people that did as well, and there was a lot of good ideas that went into that. Just looking forward to seeing when that might come about.
So I have been talking with Max Chauvin. He was our leader in the strategic plan session that we held with our recreation committee and members of councils. Max has been very busy. He was seconded to do a homelessness study for HRM, and now he is hired as the HRM homelessness coordinator. But he is still going to be working with us. I'm getting some information together to, we have a scope of the meeting that we had, but we just need to add and fine tune a little bit more, and that will be circulated very soon, by the end of this month.
Thank you.
I see no other mics. Frank, you had pointed out the active transportation plan that was done 13 years ago. I was part of that. I'm glad to finally see that there's some more movement on that. I have one quick question in regards to the activities at Milo Boat Club. I do understand that it was suspended for a couple days due to algae or high bacteria counts.
We did have a day where we had high total coliform and E. coli results, but we did get another positive test, so we have been open. We do have tests in the hopper now, so we just heard the beach down up in Clare and Mavelet has closed because of high E. coli. Traditionally, we get bad readings at Milo with high water or low water, and with all the rain, all the runoff, that's probably what's caused the high bacteria reading. We're hoping that we'll be able to stay open. If we do have to close, we test again until we get positive results.
Yeah, thank you very much for Frank. I already knew the answer to that question, but unfortunately, this year's been a little bit of a wild weather year. And yeah, runoff and stuff has been a major culprit of that, stuff like that. And you're correct that Mavelet also had the same issue. So I see no more. One more question. Councillor Hilton?
Thank you. Through you to the CAO. The town active transportation plan obviously plays a role for us as well because it interferes, or not interacts with recreation. I was just wondering if maybe we could get a presentation or update on what that is, since it's 13 years old and I do not know the ins and outs of it.
Right, so the plan that was put together 13 years ago was actually done jointly between the town of Yarmouth and the municipality of Yarmouth, along with a group that I think was called Active Yarmouth, and it is linked on our website. I think what I understand is when the motion was made at this council to accept the report as it was tabled, basically the projects that were called for in the plan, we've been chipping away at ours. So for example, we've been lobbying the provincial government to look at making better provisions for active transportation in the Blue Route on Highway 304. We've been looking at the Lake Milo piece. Most of the projects were created for active transportation corridors in the town that would connect to other assets that were either already constructed or we're going to have improved levels of service, like the Rails to Trails system. So we'll definitely circulate that out to council. The town, as of yet, has not approached the municipality to ask us to partner again on a reiteration or another iteration of that project. So I don't know what they're thinking, what they have in mind. I'm not sure if they've chatted with Frank about that or not.
No, and just one other point, I think when the initial idea came about for an active transportation plan, the council of the municipal council of the day, they were more interested in the two entry points, to which, as CAO Brooks has said, that's what we've been lobbying with Lake Milo stretch and Airport stretch were the two key routes that were identified, and we know there's work that has been done on those two
Yeah,
routes.
and I also remember too, when that plan was first introduced, we also gave it to the province, and they more or less just said, you show me the highlights. Didn't really want to take the time to read it, and that's what happened about 13 years ago. I specifically remember that and all the work that we did for that, because obviously when it comes to active transportation and Blue Routes, as the CAO said, it's quite a project, and it requires different levels of government to buy in to make some of these things happen. We've been chipping away at them, as the CEO said, by ourselves. We've also included the Deputy Warden, obviously, has been a real advocate of sidewalks and stuff, and some people say, well, why do we build sidewalks? But actually, the one going up the
Hebron stretch.
Highway 340, going up there, that was part of we used the active transportation plan as part of the blueprint to get that piece done, even though that was the most expensive section of highway or sidewalk that we did, and it was only a short stretch because of the hills and stuff, but council did it because of the
Connectivity.
the plan, that connectivity plan that we did 13 years ago.
Thank you. And I just to follow up to that, I'm really excited to hear the town's back on board, because we are looking to finish that piece on the airport stretch, and they own a part of that. So I just want to make sure we're connecting all the dots. And I've added active transportation trails to the agenda for a later discussion tonight. So it's high on my priority list too. The roads are really dangerous here in Yarmouth. They're narrow and vehicles are bigger, and we need to have safe places for residents to walk.
Thank you very much, Frank. I see no other microphones unless there's a question from staff. Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Isn't it interesting, after all these years of work and stuff, you wonder if it's just shelved in collecting dust. At least I'm glad to see that finally some of the work that I, myself, and Deputy Warden, at least, has worked on 13 years ago, is actually starting to move. Old business, there is none. Item 10, new business, 10.1, street naming policy, S-844-23. Madam CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in your package tonight, Council, are a number of policies and bylaws for your review. The street naming policy is a brand-new policy. In your legislative agenda that you approved, we wanted to formalize the process that we use to name streets. So I'll just kind of go through the highlights of the policy. So the purpose of the policy is to outline procedures for naming or renaming municipal-owned streets and privately owned roads. And there's a definition section. We talk about the position of civic addressing coordinator, and we indicate that that's an employee or a group of employees designated by the CAO to act as the coordinator for the purposes of this policy. We talk about the requirement to keep a record of names, and the standard that we're using is through the Nova Scotia Civic Address file. We talk about the coordination in terms of administration of this policy being the responsibility of the civic addressing coordinator. Part 6 is an important part. The provisions in Part 6 relate to the role of the development officer and the civic addressing coordinator in making sure that final plans of subdivision are not approved until the roads that are proposed in those plans are named. And that's an important public safety feature, because all the work we do around naming streets and civic addressing gets forwarded to first responder agencies and dispatch agencies, so that when people call out for help, we can find them. So Part 7 and Part 8 lay out the process for recommending street names to council. There's a little bit of a nuance, just because private roads are handled a little bit differently than municipal streets with respect to input from the community, but then for municipal streets, council can obviously act on their own to name the streets they own. Part 9 talks about road reserves. So road reserves, basically, if there's a plan for a development that the actual work to subdivide properties and create property identification numbers isn't done, but the plan shows a reserve for roads in that plan, we can go ahead and prename those roads in advance, so that when the plan of subdivision comes to fruition, that's already done, that's already decided. Part 10 lays out who needs to be notified when council approves the name. So obviously the affected owners and residents on the street, all applicable fire services, fire dispatch, and emergency health service dispatch, as well as the Nova Scotia Civic Address file or other provincial road name database. And then we also indicate that we'll collaborate with other municipalities if they make, and the province and federal government, if they make requests or make inquiries with respect to the renaming of roads and streets under their jurisdiction. And then one question that we get sometimes is around, particularly for private roads, they can be owned by more than one person. So just for clarity, it's presumed that one owner of a PID speaks on behalf of all owners unless the civic address coordinator has information to the contrary. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Chair, for any questions from council.
Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to CAO, under 6.1.3, it looks like there's a line underneath that. Does that need to go up by street? Is that a lengthening,
yeah,
reduction of?
I think that's a formatting.
It just should be up,
Yep.
put up in there,
Formatting,
minor,
yeah.
but, yeah, thank you.
Deputy Ward.
Right, I guess the intention of the CAO this evening would be to have council move this to first reading. Is that correct?
This is a policy, Mr. Deputy Warden, and
as
you
opposed
were
to bylaw.
provided with your 7 days' notice to consider it. So if it's the wishes of council, it can be approved this evening.
Okay, so I'll move that we, that Municipality District of Yarmouth approve street naming policy S-844-23.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Patty Durkee. Comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10.2, violence in the workplace policy, V-1068-20. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Council, this policy is before you tonight for recommended revisions. A couple of small revisions, for example, in definitions under 2.5, we're just updating the title of the individual who we mean when we refer to human resources. It's no longer the Director of Corporate Services, it's the Deputy CAO. And then we're modernizing some of the pronouns to best practices throughout the document. But the big revision that's being recommended, the Deputy CAO is a certified human resource professional and took some special training on investigations for incidents that could fall under this policy. And what was learned was that where a counselor or the CAO is either a complainant or a respondent, a best practice would be for the municipality to have the purview to hire an independent investigator who is not necessarily the municipal solicitor, but could be the municipal solicitor. So we're proposing the revision that basically removes municipal solicitor and substitutes that with a qualified investigator. So we've recommended changes throughout the document to create continuity with respect to that idea.
Deputy Warden.
So, given the presentation, I'll move that the Municipality District of Yarmouth approve the violence in the workplace policy revisions is circulated V-1068-20.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. Discussion? Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the CAO. 3.4, it says, in cases where the respondent or complainant is a counselor, report shall be made to the warden. If the warden is a respondent or complainant, to the deputy warden, or deputy warden shall provide written notice of such a report to the CAO. What if the complainant is about the CAO?
It's my understanding that under the Municipal Government Act, the CAO just has to be advised that a complaint was received. That's it.
Okay, so that's what you're referring to? Thank you. And then the other question I have is in terms of an investigator, an outside investigator, does that only pertain to counselors or does that pertain to staff? Because the way I read it, it seemed that it would be, if there was a complaint about staff, it would have to go to an outside investigator, but...
Only if the complainant or the respondent is a counselor or the CAO do we go to a qualified investigator.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the CAO, just some concern about taking municipal solicitor out of some of these places. We work and have to work with the people around this table. And, if there was an issue, I guess for me, there could be an instance where the municipal solicitor would seem that independent party that could possibly be providing that buffer between things that happen around or behind the doors of this council. I guess my concern is just, that seems like the safeguard as opposed to, the warden or deputy warden or the CAO. I don't think I really have a question. I just feel like it's, for me, I would feel more comfortable in that particular instance that the municipal solicitor could be part of that conversation. And I'm not sure.
Can you give me a specific, so if we look at 3.4, for example.
Sure.
So that's just basically saying who the reports are filed with and who needs to be notified of it. Then when you get into the investigation, investigator could be, if you go back to the definition,
Yes,
an investigator could include the municipal solicitor.
Okay, that's helpful. So when we talk about a qualified investigator, how do we decide, who decides, and how long does that take? And I come from, a background of timelines, and I could be wrong. There was a lot of reading this week. I didn't see any timelines as to the complaint is here, this is how many days we have to get here, and this is how many days we have to reply. Is that something we wouldn't normally add or could add, or?
So it depends. In a couple of places, for example, in 422, we do use a word immediately in terms of notifying when somebody witnesses something. In terms of, you know, a report is made and how many days go between when a person receives a report and the next step happens, we don't have any of that in there. Doesn't mean it can't be in there. Absolutely, we can take a look at that. I think with respect to who a qualified investigator is, what we're learning is there are HR professionals and solicitors who have expertise in certain types of investigations. And so this policy takes in quite a range of potential circumstances. And so the terminology is intentionally broad enough so that if the municipality needs the services of an investigator, it would be a person with qualifications in that particular field. So some sort of procurement document would have to be created outlining the qualifications that are required to undertake the investigation.
Okay, that's good. And I guess for me, probably the biggest thing would be the timeline. And I think about staff, and if something were to happen where someone does or says something that violates this policy, we wouldn't want that staff or council member to then find out 3 months later that something was said or done against them that nobody really knew about because the staff member or the counselor just finally, I guess I feel like if something happens today, we don't want to wait a month before something is done about it. And I wouldn't want to hold the changes up, so I don't know if we want to,
So you could make two motions. You could
Okay.
approve the revisions that you want to approve tonight, but you can also send it back to have more research done to
On
add
timelines.
timelines. Yep.
Okay, so we can deal with
Or what
Trevor's.
if you just amended the motion that's on the floor to bring it back with proposed amendments? Would that work?
Either or would work. There's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, I do know that, and
Yeah.
that's the reason why, because it's kind of strange, in my opinion, that you would approve a motion and then make
And
another
then-
one to send it right back. So-
Keeping in mind, though, that policies and bylaws are living documents, right? And so,
I'm just looking for the cleanest option.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess that, for me, I would rather have timelines, some kind of timeline around the process,
I don't disagree.
So I don't know how we.
So you could either do it as the way as the CAO suggested, is approve the motion that's currently on the floor, and then make another motion to send it back to staff to include timelines. You could do it that way, or you can make an amendment to the motion that's currently on the floor to send it back to.
But then we're not passing this, right?
Yeah, but that is
Right,
true, because there's a lot of good things that are in here,
Right.
but you just want to see it tweaked a little bit more. It's totally up to you. Councillor Durkee still has the microphone. So Councillor Durkee, did you have anything to add?
Thank you. Just for clarification, and I may have read it, but who chooses the investigator?
I believe council has to hire the investigator, but you may get support from HR or the CAO, depending on the circumstances, to procure the proposals, but council will choose the investigator.
Okay, is that in this or not?
I'm looking for it.
Thanks.
Well, from my understanding, there is going to be another motion, provided this one passes and/or falls from the table, so.
I think it's a great question. I'm ordinarily, consulting contracts that are not budgeted for have to be approved by council anyway, but it's a great question in terms of maybe just putting it in black and white.
Thank you.
So just keep that in mind, provided this motion passes. So is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right, there was discussion when the other motion was on the floor that someone wanted to make another motion in that regards, and you may want to include what was just brought up by Councillor Durkee. Just in case. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is where the wording's going to get funky. I'll make a motion that we send violence in the workplace policy as we just passed, the new one today, V-1068-20, back to staff to investigate and include some timelines, and also the procurement process for hiring the qualified investigator.
Correct. Like that. Seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Any discussion on that motion? I will have one question. Usually it would go to a committee of the whole, which we're not having next month. Correct?
This doesn't have to be next month.
No, it doesn't. That's true. It doesn't have to be next month. Okay, so any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Thank you. I believe that motion passed unanimously. Just hit me. Item 10.3, addressing civic addressing bylaw C-610-23.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a brand-new bylaw, council. If you recall, it was a piece that we had agreed we would put on our books as a part of our agreement with the town for fire services. So basically, the bylaw is modeled after the town's civic addressing bylaw. It sets out the process for assigning who assigns civic address numbers to properties that require them. It talks about notice, and it talks about the size and the placement in the materials for the signage. We deal specifically with the font and the text and the color. We deal with what to do when buildings are significant distances from the roadway. We deal with instances where there's a long private driveway and more than one numbered structure on that driveway in terms of where to put signs and if more than one sign is required. We specify that one sign will be given for free for each structure that requires it. Additional signs will cost money. We do supply posts for a fee, but property owners are not required to use the posts we supply as long as they meet the parameters and the placement guidelines that are in the bylaw. And then there's enforcement in terms of trying to get everybody in the municipality to follow this procedure and this guideline and this bylaw for posting civic address numbers. It's really, really important for first responders that civic addresses are placed in this way, which is consistent across Nova Scotia, so that time is not wasted looking for properties that require help.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
So, just to reinforce, that it says, 5.2 says any person who violates any provision of this bylaw is guilty of an offense punishable on summary conviction by a fine of not less than $500. So what we're saying is if someone doesn't have a civic sign, then they can be charged?
They can be. We have the authority to do that.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I probably just should point out, so this bylaw is being proposed for approval as first reading tonight. We will have to advertise for a public hearing, which will happen in September, and then council can consider second reading.
Councillor Hilton.
Oh, I got you first. No, thank you, Mr. Chair. And just follow up on Patty's question, because it goes to the presentations. We're not trying to ticket people. I would assume first, for the first attempt would be to help them put their sign up, or
That's right. Yep.
help them construct the sign. Yeah. So I will say that having worked in Merge for 10 years, that this is a bylaw that saves lives, and it is important. how we go about doing that is probably up for debate, and there'll be a public hearing if there's any other issues with it, but it is one that I'll support.
Deputy Warden?
Yeah, I'll move that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth approve first reading of the civic addressing bylaw C-610-23 and move it to public hearing.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Discussion? Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to follow up to Councillor Hilton's point, if there are people in the listening public who watch this recording and they need a civic address sign put up, they can, I can probably speak for everyone around this table. They can call us and we will get it for them and we will find a way to get it put up. So, you know, we just need people to know how important it is to have these signs by their property so that, like Councillor Hilton said, it's going to save lives, it's going to save time. So we don't want to fine anyone. It's not, you know, not supposed to be there, you know, as a punishment. We just want people to do the right thing. So I'll be supporting.
Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to comment that for the past, I guess, 6, almost 7 years, I have been trying to encourage people in the community to put up these signs, and I still see, for that reason, for safety reasons, I still see a lot of people who do not have them up. And remember, these signs are free. You just have to call the office and ask for them. They are free, and everybody should have one. And so I'm happy to see that, you know, we're moving to get this bylaw in place. But I think it's really, really important that education, an education piece goes out when this has been approved.
There is a motion on the floor. I will ask the CEO this question in this regards. Some people may get a civic sign, but their house is up in the woods. And you, first responders can't see that civic sign. Is that addressed in this?
Yep. Yep.
The location is addressed to be highly visible?
Well, highly visible, and when a structure cannot be seen or is more than a certain number of meters away from the traveled roadway, then there's a requirement for 2 civic signs. One by the public
Okay,
road and one on the building.
I missed that
Yep.
part of this. There was a lot of reading this thing.
There was, yep.
And I will say this, no more than a month ago when we had our dry period, that's not obviously happening now, there was a forest fire out in the Forest Glen area. I was driving one of the tanker trucks and I drove by a place twice because there was no civic sign. There was a civic sign that was issued through Digby Dispatch to us. I was the first one responding. I drove by that place twice because there was no civic sign there. It's very important that this is done. Okay, is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10.4, Transient Vendor Bylaw T-088-23.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chair, probably yourself and the Deputy Warden remember when the 2009 bylaw was adopted. There was a dynamic developing in the community where certain types of commercial enterprises would just pop up around the community. And there really wasn't a provision for dealing with that from a land use perspective, from a zoning perspective. So that's how the original bylaw came into being. And then it was on council's legislative agenda for a regular review. And so before you, there's a couple of changes that I do want to highlight. In Part 4, the licensing, there was never a requirement for proof of insurance, and we're not stipulating or proposing that the council stipulate how much insurance, but that the applicant prove that they have some liability, commercial liability insurance for the activity that they want to undertake. And then over in Section 7, we talk a little bit about appeals. And because this bylaw is meant to complement and reinforce the land use bylaws, we're suggesting that an appeal for a decision by the office not come to council because council's already approved the municipal planning strategy and the land use bylaws. that the appeal for reconsidering an application or reviewing additional information in an application stay inside the CAO's office for review, just to try to reinforce the spirit of the MPS and the LUB. And then in Part 8, 8.2 used to call for a copy, a certified copy of the fees policy be displayed along with the license. Well, having the fees policy as an appendix to the bylaw technically means every time council amends their fees policy, this bylaw would need to be amended. So we're recommending that we sever the requirement for the copy of the fees policy to be in the bylaw and just refer fees for this as approved by council in the fees policy.
One thing I will point out in there as well, like I say item 4.3, it says after recipient of a completed application, the municipality shall, and that's crossed out in word may. It's funny how words can change just one sentence, just one word. So what is the pleasure of council? Deputy Warden?
I'll move that the municipality district of Yarmouth approve the transient vendor bylaw T-088-23, and that's the revisions. And I'm assuming we'll need to move this to first reading?
Tonight, right now?
First reading tonight, yeah.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. Discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10.5, active transportation trails. Councillor Nick Hilton, you had asked to have this added to the agenda, and I do believe you have some pictures. This is the first time I ever remember seeing this. I always wondered why technology, after all these years, has
Do you want
not...
to do it manually, Marissa?
While they're figuring that out, I'll just say that this is a two-part question, two-part conversation. I, as councillor for District 7, have, I believe, the only active transportation trail in the municipality. It is one that during the election 3 years ago was a high bone of contention and remains an issue within the area of Chabot, Rockville, Chabot Road. I walked it this morning. That's what some of the photos are of. That's more of the conversation for part two. Part one, I'd like to address the fact that we don't really have a policy or bylaw that manages the expectations of an active transportation trail in Modi. So I think it's been pretty clear the fact that the last 3 years there has been no maintenance done to that trail that we need to manage expectations when we create infrastructure in Yarmouth or in the municipality of Yarmouth. I do look to the CAO maybe for a suggestion on where that belongs, if it's a new bylaw or if it's an amendment to the municipal streets and sidewalks bylaw to include active transportation trails and what the expectations of the municipality and the community are to maintaining that type of infrastructure. That would be for both hard-surfaced active transportation trails and for gravel transportation trails like this one. So I maybe would get a little input from the CAO before I make a recommendation on where she believes that would belong, a separate bylaw to manage active transportation trails or to amend the streets and sidewalks bylaw.
Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Hilton, an active transportation trail, whether it's a gravel surface or a hard surface, is another class of linear assets. So linear assets would be things like wastewater collection, stormwater collection, water utility, streets, other types of sidewalks. So we have a municipal streets and sidewalks bylaw, and if there was a separate category defining what active transportation is, in terms of how our trails may be treated differently than sidewalks, which has kind of been the way we've categorized this asset differently from our traditional sidewalks. Then we can create another category which stipulates the level of service that council wants around a trail as opposed to a sidewalk. We also have our asset management policy, which now is feeding into your capital investment plan. So if the bylaw can speak to those standards like snow and ice removal, encroaching vegetation, those sorts of things, that deals with those services that happen on a day-to-day basis on the asset, and then you deal with kind of recapitalization and ideas or considerations for new assets through your capital investment plan. So there would be two kind of different approaches to answering the question.
So is a motion to amend the municipal streets and sidewalks bylaw S-089-22 to include a section on active transportation trails seem right to you?
It could, Councillor Hilton. Active transportation is a broad term that sidewalks also fall into. So we'll take a look at that, and we'll take a look at language that kind of deals with this type of an asset differently than our hard surfaced assets, which are actually covered under the existing bylaw, and try to make sure we look at the different types of linear assets, and we're creating service standards for looking after all of them.
So I apologize for the number of questions, but we didn't really have committee of the whole this month or next month to answer some of these. So you say that a hard surface active transportation trail would fall under the sidewalk bylaw?
That's active transportation trails is a broad term that takes in traditional hard surface sidewalks, trails like this that are gravel or dirt. They could take in something that's made out of wood, like a boardwalk. So I think active transportation is a broad term, and then you drill down to things like traditional sidewalks, trails, boardwalks, those sorts of things.
So would a motion be more along the lines of to direct staff to look at where active transportation trails, both hard surfaced and gravel surfaced, fit into our bylaws and bring a recommendation back to council?
That would be my suggestion.
So moved.
Motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Wow, that was quick.
Well,
That'd be my suggestion, all of them so moved. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Question being called, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Councillor Hilton, I do know that you still have the floor because your mic is on.
so part two. So like I said, 3 years ago, knocking on doors, right up until this week, receiving 3 calls with the amount of rain that we've had and the effect that it's had on the surface of that trail. We talked about this in January. I brought photos in January. And I know that Public Works is due to do some work on the trail, but we're also now mid-July, and the reason that we haven't done the work is because of the weather. So if we can't do maintenance on a gravel trail up until mid-July, I'm not really sure when we're going to be able to do proper maintenance. And for me, the problem with that is that it's not the surface that should be alongside the road in Rockville. So if you look at some of the photos, and another issue with that active transportation trail is when they created it, it was not meant to, we were not interfering with people's driveways. So we can clear and fix the trail right up until the beginning of the driveway, and then we start again after the driveway. So you see the picture number 7 with the big puddle. Even after the municipality goes in and fixes the sidewalk, that's in a driveway, that's not being fixed. There is several grassed-in areas along the way that are in driveways that will not be fixed. I'm not picking on what was being done at the time. It's easy for me to say that, you know, it's a second-class sidewalk compared to what's happened in Port Maitland and Hebron recently, but I know that people without a dirt trail will say, I wish I had a dirt trail. But if something like that was to come back to council at this point, we wouldn't be building that. And I think along the lines of think, how do I say this? Yeah, we wouldn't be building something to that standard. So I know that other councillors have spoke about wanting active transportation trails in their community. I am in support of active transportation. I'm in support of some of the things that Councillor Cunningham has brought to the table. I don't think, and I know that Councillor Allen has mentioned one in Melbourne, for me, can't see us getting to those until we fix the problems with the one we have. So my motion would be to add to the capital budget plan for 2024 the engineering of a properly surfaced, hard surfaced active transportation trail for the Chabot Road section between 1462 Chabot Road and 1824 Chabot Road.
Okay, motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Durkee. Discussion? I'm going to start first. Back when that sidewalk was designed and stuff, originally in your district, Councillor Hilton, there was no sidewalks whatsoever, and the council of the day, which I was part of, decided that we wanted to put a sidewalk in your district along there because actually we were petitioned by the residents. At the time, if I remember correctly, they even said they didn't care what surface it had. As we all know, when we have a hard surface like concrete or asphalt, it gets very expensive very fast. At the time, the council decided that we wanted to try something new. This is something new. We didn't know how it was going to work at the time. At the time, we thought it was the best route. Instead of having a sidewalk that's, or an active transportation trail that's a couple, 300-400 meters, we have one that goes all along the stretch of Sand Beach. Is it perfect? No. Where there's lessons learned. But the thing of it is I don't know if I can support the motion on the floor as it sits right now. Because that's an awfully long sidewalk. I know it's only a motion for engineering, but we are already stretched to our limit in regards to projects and projects that need to be done. And I don't know. I don't think I could support the motion as it currently sits. I'd like to, maybe the staff, maybe I'd be more happy to see staff maybe see what we can do. It has been raining, and it has been raining a ridiculous amount over the past month, and you are correct, Councillor Hilton, that you did bring this forward back in January during the winter time. And I do see the picture. I do take note that, yes, there is some big hot potholes where residents' driveway goes in, but I would like a little more thought on the motion that's on the floor first before I would move forward. But that's my comments. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would support the motion. I feel that, outside of, the high traffic, high populated areas in this municipality, there are areas that have nothing. And I think that Councillor Hilton is right. I would never have supported the building of anything that we thought would potentially lead to this. It's embarrassing to know that we have a trail, because it's not a sidewalk, it's classed as a trail, in our municipality that we have asked to have work done on it. And Councillor Hilton's right, if we can't get this done in July because of weather, we're not getting it done in September, October, November, December because of the weather. And, yeah, there's been some rain, but that water puddle is probably the only thing that's been caused by the rain. The rest of that didn't happen in the last month. That has looked like that for months. And for me, as a municipal councillor, it's embarrassing. It's not even in my district, but it's embarrassing that we have that in our municipality that has gone unkept for as long as it has. And I would fully support Councillor Hilton's motion to, and it's engineering. We're not talking, that we're going to do the whole thing. We're just saying we're going to commit to money in the next budget year to come up with something that might fix some of that. And that, for that reason, I'll support it.
Councillor Durkee.
I concur. I am very disappointed when I look at those pictures and embarrassed to think that that is supposed to be an active transportation trail through that area. I don't think it's been properly maintained. I see where grass has grown over it. I think that even in the short term, that it needs to be excavated and cleaned up and some gravel put in there. And in terms of the driveways, well, you know, when we build a sidewalk, we create an environment where people can walk the sidewalk all the way through driveways. There's work done with driveways to make sure that they're smoothed out so that people can go over them. And this is really disappointing. And so I will definitely be supporting Councillor Hilton's motion.
Deputy Warden?
So yeah, I agree that the state of affairs is not where we'd like it to be, certainly, that's 100% for sure. Having said that, what does the motion, I'm not sure if I understand really what the motion reads. Can you read back the motion? Is it, and what the implications are? Because if we're going to engineer it, it should be engineered for like a probable solution, a hard surface. So is that, I guess we're looking at engineering, or should we do something, should we have staff bring something back to suggest some kind of, I'm not just sure I'm not just sure if we're going out to tender, or if we're budgeting it, some clarity around that maybe.
Madam CEO, could you answer that question? Because that's actually my question.
So my understanding is that the motion is having the municipality make an allotment in its next operating budget to engineer a hard surface trail in the area, so Chabot Road, Kelly's Cove. In the meantime, there are some issues there, and there is money in the budget this year to fix it. Because I think if I heard Councillor Durkee correctly, what we can do this year, we should still press on and persevere and do, for sure, in the meantime.
The hard surface trail, like, is that doable? Is it a sidewalk standard? I'm not sure what a hard surface trail really means. I've never heard of it before.
Well, I think in the scope of work for the engineers, I think we'll discuss the asset that's there now, how it's performed, how it's deteriorated, and we'll ask the experts to propose options for council to consider.
Okay, so yeah, in that case, I think that clarifies it for me, and I'm definitely supportive of it, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, could I have the motion please read back to me? Because I'm struggling with, Council, there you go.
The motion, as I heard, was to add engineering services along the Chabot Road active transportation trail to the 24-25 capital budget.
Not
No.
capital, no, it would be operating.
Operating.
Yeah.
And that was, my next question, was it in capital or operating?
I did say capital, but I can amend it to operating.
Because when it comes to capital, no, not a chance, not for me.
Well, I think I'll just clarify if I can,
Same
Mr.
part
Chair,
of
that, yeah, so capital is the construction, operating is where we pay for consulting fees to do design work. If council chooses to do that project, then we can capitalize that cost out of your capital
Well, see, the
reserve.
reason why I come out so strong against the motion that was on the floor, because it said capital. And that's the main reason
So I will
why.
make an amendment to change the wording from capital to operating.
Okay, so there's an amendment on the floor to change the wording of the motion from capital to operating. Is there a seconder on that? Seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Discussion on that amendment. This I can support, because words matter. When you talk about capital, to me, that means you're building it, right then and there. And a lot of people that are out there, if they're capital, that's what it means. And that's the main reason why I would not support the motion that was currently put forward. Yeah, but anyway, is there any more discussion on the amendment on the main motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Back to the main motion.
Just one more comment.
Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, and thank you, council, for it, considering this. And my vision is that, we're never going to be able to put a sidewalk on every corner, but we should be able to put some version of an acceptable active transportation trail in other communities. This is about 1 kilometer long. Adding a surface to what's there would be ideal. Maybe the groundwork that was done for this allows for some of that. But I do know when I'm talking gravel, and this was a test for a previous council to see if this was acceptable. But when I hear residents with four-wheeled walkers that are no longer using the trail because it's not accessible, and that the fact that we're not doing the work to driveways makes it impassable for certain residents. My feet were soaked walking up through there today due to the amount of grass, and I know that the municipality is headed there at some point this summer, and this conversation is not at anything against that. I will say the 1 ton of gravel that's there, we put 11 tandem truckloads on 1 kilometer on the rail trail, so the 1 ton isn't going to do the work that's there. I know they'll bring more, but it's just not going to be enough. This needs to be fixed long-term. The residents there feel like second class, and again, I know that people have nothing. I get that. But when we go to build something else, I want to build it right, and I feel we need to fix this before we do that.
Also, one other thing that I'm not defending council of the day's decision, but back then there was no accessibility thing in our bylaws or the push that there has been, which rightfully so, it's a good thing that it's there. But back then, it is not accessible, and you do bring up a good point in that regard. So, back to the main motion. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.6, recommendation from the Joint Police Advisory Committee. 10.6.1, there's a motion. And 10.6.1.1, draft terms of reference. No. Any discussion on that?
I can
Madam
start,
CEO?
Mr. Chair, sure. So, Mr. Chair, the Joint Police Advisory Committee has successfully reignited itself, and elected a chair at its meeting on July 13th. The committee reviewed proposed terms of reference and has made a recommendation out to the two councils to adopt the terms of reference, kind of guiding the work of the advisory committee. The terms of reference are taken directly from the requirements in the Police Act and set out who will be on the committee, the mandate of the committee, the qualifications, some roles and responsibilities, and a framework for the meetings. We speak to conflict of interest, and we also call for a review of the terms of reference. So I'm not sure if Councillor Hilton has anything more he'd like to add. He and Councillor Cushing are your representatives on that committee.
Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that there was recently a news article, and folks can certainly Google it, about this very thing. Many units do not have a proper police advisory committee, joint police advisory committee, and it's very, very important. We spend a lot of taxpayer money on police protection, as you're all aware, and doing it right and in accordance with the Police Act is very, very important. So having said that, I'll move that the Municipality District of Yarmouth approve the Joint Police Advisory Committee terms of reference as circulated. And of course, that's with Argyle.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? I didn't see anyone's hand yet. Councillor Nick Hilton. Discussion. Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I have to say that the first meeting we had was very productive. This is almost the police advisory report that we would normally do at the end, but I have to thank specifically the CAO, Victoria and Jenny, for the work that they've done to pull that terms of reference together and provide the Joint Police Advisory some new direction. I don't know if I said I was elected chair, but I was elected chair. I'm really, excited for the work that we're going to do there, and really it's going to provide an opportunity for residents to bring concerns forward, and not necessarily specific concerns, but you can do that as well. But themes of things that have gone on in the community, areas where they work. We're working, we have a really, really good sergeant at the Rural Detachment, Caroline Schaffner, I believe that's correct. She's been amazing, the information that she brings forward, and she makes us feel like we're part of the solution and not part of the problem. So I'm really excited about the work that's being done there, and thank you again to the staff for helping us pull that together.
Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the staff and the committee members for reviving this committee. And like Deputy Warden Cunningham had said, this has been in the news, and the provincial government is going to be mandating and telling us what we need to be doing, and we had been doing it in the past, and it's good to see that it's back up and running again. Do we know if Argyle has passed this? Do you know, through you to the CAO?
I don't think the council has
Their
met
council has
since
not
the
met.
recommendation was.
So we say yes, and they'll probably say yes, but what happens if they said no? Then what happens?
We'll have to have a chat.
Okay.
I can tell you that both CAOs are on the same page,
Okay.
and none of Argyle's elected officials were actually at that meeting, were they, Councillor Hilton? Yep.
Okay.
So there's some risk. There is some, but probably not.
Okay.
Because, I mean, it's basically taken from the requirements of the Police Act, so.
Okay. And the other question I have is under membership C, one member appointed by the minister. The Minister of Justice for the
Minister of Justice.
province?
Yep.
And so who is that? Who is normally that person? Is it a provincial employee? Is it someone from the local area?
A citizen from the area, and so the person, anybody who's interested will have to apply through the province's agencies, boards and commissions
Okay.
portal and apply for it there, and then it's an appointment by governor and council, as I understand. So applicants will go to cabinet, go to governor and council, and then be appointed by the province. They'll receive a letter. Chair Hilton will receive a letter, and we'll work with that person.
So there'll be five voting members, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 9.
Nine.
Nine. Okay, yeah. Math wasn't my strong suit. Daniel's not here for me to cheat off him. Thank you.
You keep bringing that up, and he may be watching on his sit back and laughing to himself as we speak. Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right, council, as per our council procedural policy C-028-19, our regular council meetings are limited at 2 hours, and I need a motion to extend the council, moved by Councillor Nick Hilton, seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert, to extend the meeting minutes. Discussion that CAO gave me this note, but I was already pulled up the policy that I knew that I needed to quote, so. Okay, a motion on the floor to extend the council meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right, item 10.7, credit card. I bet you're all wondering what that's about. That's an item that I had asked to have added, and it's not what you think. This is more an information piece, and if council so chooses to do any actions, I take full responsibility. On June the 2nd, let me start at the beginning. As some may or may not know, the warden is issued a credit card when he's elected, and there's a credit card in my name. Most generally, I leave it here, locked up in the safe. I did take the credit card out to go out to a lunch meeting I had with the mayor of the town of Yarmouth and the warden of the municipality of Yarmouth. And most generally, I bring it back for the simple fact that an accident may happen, that I may use it for an illegitimate expense. So on June the 2nd, I received an email from Lisa Burke, our junior finance officer, wanting a receipt for a credit card charge, which is charged to me. I immediately notified the CAL. I said, I don't think it was me. This was on a Friday. So over the weekend, I found out where the charge was at, and I went and did a little bit of research, and it was me, and there's video evidence of me doing it. I take this very seriously. I know it's funny, and I do believe in full disclosure. So on Sunday, I emailed the CAO and Greg Shea. It's with great embarrassment that I need to inform you that I charge on my municipal issued credit card is legitimate. It inadvertently happened during the canoe rally on April the 29th, 2023. I checked the video surveillance in the system and found evidence of me taking my card out of my wallet and paying for diesel and sausages. I'll be in Monday to rectify the situation with payment in full and any other interest charges that may be incurred. I want to reassure both of you that it was not intentional, but I am thankful that our office processes catches things like this. And I just wanted everybody to know, and I do believe in full disclosure, accidents do happen from time to time. I did have a municipal issued credit card on me, which, as I said, generally is in here. It's the same color as my debit card. I have rectified the situation, and it is my apologies to everyone that I intend not this to happen again, and the credit card is locked back up. This is not something that typically happens that the public will see, but I wanted to reassure the public. There's been talk sometimes of things get swept under the rug. I'm not like that. I believe in full disclosure, and if there's any ramifications that has to happen because of it, I accept them. So if there's anything that happens, anyone out there that wishes to file a complaint, please do so. I believe in full disclosure. That's the end of that item, unless the council wants to talk. Item 11, correspondence for action. 11.1.1, the Western Nova Scotia Exhibition Reception. I do believe Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Well, I don't think I need to declare a conflict because it has nothing to do with voting or money, but I just want to, I know that you received a letter I dropped off. I'm on the board of the Western Nova Scotia Exhibition, and the municipality supported a grant application, which I was not part of. I did declare a conflict of interest in that, but this is just an invitation to council to attend the sponsorship reception on Wednesday, August 2nd. That's by invitation only, but I do encourage the public and the rest of the council to come out to the exhibition during the week to attend the event. And we need an RSVP.
Okay, yeah. Deputy Warden.
Mr. Chair, thank the Agricultural Society for the invitation. It's fantastic. I will just want to let everybody know I won't be around during that period, so I won't be able to attend, but otherwise I would have. So Sherry, if you can just send along my regrets, that'd be appreciated. Thanks.
Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I attended last year, and it was great to get to, well, I feel like I grew up with a lot of those people. They're all old 4-H people and or school bus drivers, one or the other. Anyway, I look forward to this year's event and thank the society and the group that put on the exhibition for their hard work.
Councillor Hilbert.
Just one more comment. Last year, as part of the Ground Search and Rescue fundraiser, they had a Dunk a Politician afternoon, and Deputy Warden and Councillor Hilton and myself were all part of that dunking, and who knew it would be such an event that they would be happy that they could dunk us in this ice-cold water. But I don't know if they're doing it again this year, but if they do, I'll be ready to be dunked. So it was fun.
Absolutely, and I will be attending this event this year. Unfortunately, last year it conflicted, and to my knowledge it doesn't, but the information's in there for me to respond, and I'll certainly do that. I've been a big supporter of the exhibition over the years. Actually, I grew up my whole life in there on the farm with these allergies in the barns. Yeah, so I'll be there as well. Thank you very much, Councillor Hurlbert, for all the volunteering you do for that organization. Item 10.1.2, unveiling of the number 2 Black Construction Battalion Monument and Interpretive Panel. Councillor Durkee?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to comment that I will be happy to attend both events and look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that event is when?
September 22nd at 11 a.m. Center Ave.
It don't matter, I'll make it. It's very important to me that I am there. Yes, I'll be there. All right, that's all the correspondence for action. Item 11.2, for information, you have the Town of Yarmouth regarding the intermunicipal agreements, grant report from the Hebron Baptist Community Playground Committee, new film, Coastline Communities Face the Future, and 12.24, Hear Hear Society, thank you. Item 12, reports. Item 12.1, CEO's report. You'll have that in your package. Questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Canada Day, I was at the Cape for Shoe with Deputy Warden, and we took some pictures of the new process that's happening there with the construction of the look-off. And so can you just give us an update? I know that it's in here, but you can just give us an update on where the delay is on that?
So the look-off that's being constructed has, the skeleton is steel, kind of like in the rafters in this room. So it's being prefabricated in certain components and then coming to the site, being craned from the parking lot up to the building that it's being fastened to, and then being put together like Lego blocks. There were mistakes in the parts. They were not fabricated correctly, and so they were rejected by our contractor and sent back for refabrication.
Okay. Who pays that additional?
Not Modi.
Okay. Thank you for that. And yeah, lots of work happening, even though it's a summer, we're, still doing what we need to do. And thank you for your report. And do we need to accept, make a motion to accept report as presented?
Yep.
I'll make that.
Moved by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert, second by Councillor Nick Hilton. Discussion. Deputy Warden, your mic was flashing, and all of a sudden, nope, not touching that with a 10-foot. Second thought. Sober second thought. All right, motion on the floor. No discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right, next item on the agenda is the Warden's report. It was short and sweet. I did this up real quick. One thing that I did mention in there was in regards to the over 160 years anniversary of the Western Counties Nova Scotia exhibition. That's being held from August 2nd to August the 5th. There's a lot of events that's happening around all the communities, and I gotta ask Councillor Sherry Hurlbert, I don't mean to put you on the spot, there is an event going on at the Durkee Memorial Library in Carleton. What day is that?
Durkee Memorial Library in Carleton is having a tea, and I think it is August the 13th from 1 to 4.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
That's a big question mark.
Yeah, and I was
We do
digging
have a
for it too.
Facebook page, and I think it's on there, yes.
Yeah, and there's all.
I made the poster, I should know what the date is.
I thought you did, but
I did. Yeah.
I really apologize for putting you on the spot on that, but.
The 12th? Oh, yes, sorry, the 12th. It's a Saturday from 1 to 4.
Yeah.
Not Sunday.
And that's
12th from 1 to
something
4.
that I always try to make it out, because there's a lot of people that actually attend that over the years, and there's sandwiches and tea and soup and, not soup, why can't I even think now? Must be my allergies. Tea and juice, that's not what I was thinking of, that happens out there. But there's all kinds of events that's happening around the municipality. Coal Shed Music Festival's happening in town. Seafest is currently going on, so there's a lot of stuff going on. And I encourage everybody to get out to the community and do what you can. So without further ado, Reports from legal entity committees. Anyone have any verbal report? There's some written reports. Councillor Hilton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just to keep everyone updated on what's going on with the Mariner Center Expansion Board, because I believe that to be one of the biggest things happening in our community. To be honest, since our last meeting, I don't believe we've had a meeting, but we have one booked for next Tuesday, and that will be to for the Mariner Center Board to finally hear what some numbers are going to be. There's not a whole lot I can share with you until that day. I haven't seen any of the last plans, building plans. They were asked to come back with some additional drawings that to help with some cost savings. Some of those additional drawings do involve a standalone building. The reason I mention that is because the warden called me on that because it was in the last report to you guys. Outside of that, I don't know if I can provide you any more information. I hope that we will get together after next Tuesday and you can ask all the questions you want about the information we have. I can try to field any questions right now, but until that meeting, that's all that really can happen. I do have a question about the Mariner Center Management Authority through the chair to the CAO. I feel like we were supposed to get regular updates on what's going on there budget-wise, and I feel like I've yet to see one. Am I wrong?
So the Management Authority only meets quarterly, and there was a meeting, I think in May, that got canceled, and I know the CEO has sent out a meeting invite for a meeting on August the 1st.
Yeah, and I did see that come through, yeah.
So really, the board hasn't met since we kind of had that conversation, and Councillor Allen really hasn't had the opportunity to kind of get back with the board and share some of council's feedback in terms of just creating a better flow of communication back and forth.
Any more reports there? Okay, moving on. Advisory committees, 12-4. As you see in your package, during the summertime, some of the committees don't meet as often, like in the last one, the Airport Commission did not meet, and we're not meeting until July the 27th. Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just when I was providing the update on the Police Advisory Committee, we appointed one of our representatives, Kathy Thomas, to a 2-year term, and she attended the meeting. She's a resident in Greenville and brings 40 years at the town detachment, and it's a pleasure to have her. I just wanted to add that.
I'll give a verbal report in regards to the Audit Committee. We welcomed a new member, Jennifer. What is her last name? And I don't dare to say. Ardiel. Jennifer Ardiel. We met with we met with the committee I can't think tonight. We met with Jennifer Ardiel and our auditors to do the move forward plan on what the audit's going to be looking at and the process in which the audit takes, and the auditors will be working on our books very shortly to have a report to council by fall. So that's that report. No more? Ad hoc? Okay, item number 13, in camera. There's two in-camera things. Public security was one, and the second one, Councillor Durkee had asked to put in there in regards to land acquisition. So, a motion to move in the camera. Councillor Nick Hilton moved, seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.